Caring too little about other people is a bad thing. It makes you a sociopath, it makes you a psychopath. These things are wrong, or so I'm told, time and again. But I think there is a correlative question on the other end of things. Is there something wrong with caring too much about other people? If the answer to that question is yes, or if it's no, I think it's a question at least worth examining, and we're going to get into that a little bit today. Welcome to Strip Coverlet, where we squeeze the bigger picture out of literature. I'm Adrian Ford, and we are here for another poetry discussion, which will appear in the poetry discussion playlist here on the channel. The poem in question today is known as In Memory of Anyone Unknown to Me by Elizabeth Jennings, and it reads as such. At this particular time, I have no one particular person to grieve for, though there must be many, many unknown ones going to dust, slowly not remembered for what they have done or left undone. For these then I will grieve, being impartial, unable to deceive. How they lived or died is quite unknown, and by that fact gives my grief purity. An important person quite apart from me, or one obscure who drifted down alone. Both or all I remember have a place. For these I never encountered face to face. Sentiment will creep in, I cast it out, wishing to give these classical repose, no epitaph, no poppy, and no rose. From me, and certainly no wish to learn about the way they lived or died, in earth or fire, they are gone, simply because they were human, I admire. Now, this seems to be a conceit that is well within the realm of reasonable poetry. For anyone that I have not known, for anyone I have not known, and for whom there is reason to grieve, I will now grieve. I will, bleeding heart, all over you. That seems a reasonable conceit in the domain of poetry, does it not? Poetry is about the bleeding heart to some extent, to many people, most of the time. I'm not sold, at least not exclusively sold. There is another poem in which I take great pleasure, but it is along this same accord. Surprise, surprise, it's from Emily Dickinson. It reads as this: If I can stop one heart from breaking, I shall not live in vain. If I can ease one life the aching, or cool one pain, or help one fainting robin unto its nest again, I shall not live in vain. Now, the problem that I often sort of pop up with this poem is that it states nothing forward going. It states nothing as far as personal goals are contained. The speaker here, if I can stop one heart from breaking, I shall not live in vain. If I can stop one heart from breaking, you don't control that. If you set forth the goal, I want to lose 5 pounds, there are things you can do along that way, and your body sort of has to respond to it. But if your goal is, if I can stop one person from feeling this way, you have no control over that. You've no control if that person's heart breaks. You've no control if that person, instead of their heart breaking, gets angry. Instead of their heart breaking, simply decides to get revenge, right? You have no control over this part right here. You control what you do to sort of try to prevent the heart from breaking, but you can't stop it. In the same way, At this particular time, I have no particular person to grieve for, though there must be many, many unknown ones going to dust slowly, not remembered for what they have done or left undone. What a wide and expansive bit of if we're so I'm not saying this, but it could be said that's gobbledygook. That is just poetic gobbledygook. At this particular time, I have no particular person to grieve for, but I'm going to feel very bad anyway, and there's nothing you can do to stop me. What? What? Now, again, within the domain of poetry, this is completely reasonable. Within the domain of poetry, yeah, I get it. Walking around in your day to day life, if someone next to you at work were to look at you and say, hey, I don't have any reason to feel bad right now, but probably someone's starving in India, I'm going to feel bad. All right, man. More power to you, but do that on your own, right? I don't mean to bring it up, but I have no reason to feel bad, and I walked past some homeless people on the way to work today, and probably they're starving. So I'm going to feel bad for them. I get it, I guess. Right? This is essentially that same sentiment. So from WebMD, I wanted to pull something up. What is an empath? While it's not an official psychological term, empaths are generally understood to be people who are extremely attuned to the feelings and emotions of others. The term stems from the word empathy, which is the ability to understand another person from their point of view rather than your own. In other words, to put yourself in their shoes. It's not quite the same as sympathy, which means you feel concern for someone who's going through a hard time. People with high levels of empathy tend to have strong social communication and leadership skills. But empaths sometimes have a hard time setting boundaries between themselves and others. Here's an interesting thing to me. People with high levels of empathy tend to have strong social communication and leadership skills. Now, I don't know a whole lot about Elizabeth Jennings, but I do know that she was not necessarily a rule breaker. So probably less popular than she could have been. But Emily Dickinson is not someone that would have had high social communication or leadership skills. This makes me wonder. And so I believe that Elizabeth Jennings was not the socialite type. I don't know 100%, right? Don't know a whole lot about her. I believe she was not the socialite type. Not Ernest Hemingway, right? Not running around and learning all the new writers' names, things like that. What if it is the internalization of the empath, the forcing inward of the empath that creates something which is maybe pathological in the route of empathy? The social worrier, the empath with leadership skills. What was the other phrase there? The strong communicator who is an empath, maybe that person just becomes very popular. However, if that same person with those same powers of empathy, with those same predilections towards the empath, towards feeling for others, if those same people don't have the communication skills to be able to be popular with people, they are inward, they are turned in, they become writers, maybe that type of emotion, that grade of empath, that degree of worry for others makes the emotions themselves pathological, to the point where if I can stop one heart from breaking, if I can stop one other person from having this feeling of calamity, then I will have lived my life okay. Or in memory of anyone unknown to me. This is a wild, wild sort of empathy. That is all I have for this poetry discussion. If you like or appreciate what it is that I do here, hitting the like button really does help me out, as it tells YouTube to share this video with other literature lovers. If you find yourself here by chance but not design, there is poetry on the channel every Monday. And as always, I hope to have you back for the next one.